Hello and welcome to The Big Picture, where we take you through the big story that we're tracking, of course. And today we're looking at a story that we've been tracking for the past 4 days. In fact, after 2 days of a political drama that we saw in Arunachal Pradesh, the Gauhati High Court on Thursday put on hold the assembly proceedings in Arunachal Pradesh, providing a breather, in fact, for the Congress government, which was kind of voted out, at least quote unquote, according to the BJP, and a speaker who was impeached by a group of BJP and rebel Congress lawmakers operating from makeshift premises. The court's interim order has put a freeze on all assembly proceedings till the 2nd of February. But what's the road ahead now, and what do we have, as far as what will we learn from the crisis so far? To help us understand this story better, we have in studio, we've got former Delhi High Court Judge, we've got Justice Jaspal Singh here with us. We also have legal editor of the Hindustan Times, Satya Prakash, joining us in studio. Also, from the capital, we got Agnihotri, is the former Secretary General of the Rajya Sabha, and retired Lieutenant General Seth, who is the former governor of Tripura, Chhatisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. And we're also hopefully going to be joined on the phone line by a politician, of course, from Itanagar as well, hopefully from the BJP. But first, if I could come to you, Justice Singh, after the High Court order, there still seems to be a confusion, even though it has stayed all the proceedings that have been taken place, at least the past 3-4 days. What happens now as far as the session's concerned? Do we wait till the 2nd of February? Does the government too wait till the 2nd of February to know what happens at the winter session?
See, since the matter is before the High Court, and the High Court has passed an interim order, unless and until that order is set aside or is modified, the dispute remains where it is. And it's an old story of starting from Haryana, if you recollect, IR arms and GAR arms. So that's continuing, and nothing new about it. Despite the 10th schedule, people are crossing the lines. And it's a struggle for power, that's all. But very important constitutional issues are involved. Let the High Court decide as to how it goes. Though personally speaking, you have not put this to me, but I may say as an individual and as a citizen, I feel that keeping in view the nature of the dispute, the High Court should have fixed an earlier date.
Okay.
Fixing a date somewhere in February, I think it gives a long rope to both the sides to create mischief, if I may say so.
Yes.
Or to go in for bargaining. And I hope one of the parties may move an application to the High Court to take up the matter as early as possible.
Absolutely. If I could come to you, Satya Prakash, what we're seeing, of course, legally, apart from that, it's this whole political crisis, of course, that we're seeing in Parliament, both the houses. For the past 4 days, there've hardly been any work, especially relating to this particular issue. If we, like has been pointed out, this has been a long gap. This is a long gap. And if you look at it, the numbers at the moment seem to be not in favor of the Congress. What happens now in a situation like this?
Well, it's very difficult to predict what will happen next. But 2-3 things which are important to be understood and to be debated and discussed for betterment of our democratic system. One is the office of the Speaker, and the second is office of the Governor. Both these offices, the way they have been politicized and the way they have functioned over the couple of decades, in fact, almost 4 decades now,
yes,
the entire democratic system is going for a toss. It is not for the first time that this kind of situation has been created in a state assembly. It has happened in Goa, it has happened in Andhra Pradesh, it has happened in Bihar, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh. You name a state and this situation has happened. So this has primarily happened because of the fact that governor mostly acts on the instructions of the central government or the political party in power. And that is why this problem arises. One. Second, even the office of the Speaker, the sanctity of the office has been eroded because of the fact that the Speaker, who is supposed to act as kind of impartial person, he would act in a partisan manner. And that is where the problem lies. Even if the court, whatever the Gauhati High Court has ordered, for the time being it looks nice because the drama is, for the time being, it's over. But no judicial solution can be found to this kind of political problem. Ultimately, the solution has to come from the political system, and the political class has to think about it, why this kind of situation is arising every now and then.
Time and again in every state.
And the solution we thought we have achieved, that was in mid-90s when the 10th schedule was added to the constitution, anti-defection law. But that has created a different kind of anomaly. Look at the situation in Arunachal Pradesh, where the chief minister does not enjoy the majority, the support of the majority of MLAs.
Exactly.
He has just support of how many? 26 MLAs in the House of 60.
Yeah.
So he is in minority, and the majority, those who have majority, in a way, they are not allowed to form the government for whatever reasons. 10th schedule is to be blamed because 10th schedule says unless 2/3 of the ruling party, legislature party, MLAs, they decide to form a separate group, it is not, it would not be recognized as a separate group. They will be, they will lose their membership.
Yeah, it would not be seen as a valid claim.
So MLAs, they cannot act on their own conscience. I'm not saying they should be allowed to or not allowed to be, but the earlier situation was bad. This has created a worse situation.
Absolutely. If I could come to you, Mr. General Seth, you were somebody who's held the post, not just once, thrice as well. What would have prompted, in this particular case as well, even though there is now the united opposition is actually, moving a motion, they want to recall the governor, they're meeting the president, there's a whole lot of politics, of course, surrounding that is happening in the capital around it. But looking at this particular case, what would have prompted the governor to, prepone a session in this manner? What, according to you, went around there? All right, we seem to have lost the link there with General Seth. We're trying to patch that. Meanwhile, if I could come to you, Mr. Agnihotri, and you're of course somebody as far as as far as proceedings are concerned, not just in Rajya Sabha but also in Parliament, also in various sessions. In assemblies. What would have prompted the governor to take an action like this, to prepone the session in this manner?
बाकी सुनाई पड़ रहा था ठीक.
Any indication, if I could speak to any one of them? All right, we seem to be getting. All right. I'll come back to both of them in a bit. But if I could come to you, Justice Singh, we're of course going to be talking about the politics of it. But like we are pointing out, in what kind of a situation does the governor have that right to prepone a session? Does he enjoy that, without taking in confidence the current government?
See, if we look into Article 174, it does show that the governor has the power to call for a session. But probably this section is under Article 171 or 175, where a message is sent. Now, the main question is as to whether this message falls within the ambit and purview of Article 175 or it is beyond it. Because Article 175 speaks of only a bill pending in court, in the legislature or otherwise.
Okay.
So this doesn't relate to a bill, and the words or otherwise will have to be taken along with the first words with regard to a bill pending in the legislature. Assuming that he could do it under Article 175. But then could he do it without the consent or approval of the Council of Ministers? Number one. Number two, a date is already fixed. Could he of his own prepone it? The third question is, could he say that you take up this matter as item number 1? Was it within his powers? to dictate the legislature? Number three, next is, could he also say that the assembly will be at that time, the chair would be the deputy speaker?
Yes.
See, even if there is a resolution or a notice for removal of the speaker,
Yeah.
it has to be a 14 days notice. I do not know whether it was 14 days notice or not. But then the Constitution gives him a right to participate in the debate and to even cast his vote. Now, I feel that he couldn't do this, that take it up under the chairmanship or being presided over by the deputy speaker. I think he has traveled beyond Article 175.
All right. All right. General Seth is with us. I'm hopeful that he is being able to hear me. General Seth, if you could give us an idea of what would have prompted the governor to take this action. We are, of course, seeing increasingly such instances taking place where the governor, of course, takes a political call in this manner. What do you think? Has he crossed the limit in this case as well?
Well, I do think that he has exceeded his powers granted to him as a governor, because there is no aid and advice of the council in this case, and he could have done much better in a different fashion, but the way he has gone about it is not what an institution of governor is expected to do, who is supposed to be above party lines, independent, and use his own mind at such junctures.
All right. Mr. Agnihotri, you're joining us as well. Do you as well agree that the governor in this case has crossed the line? He's, of course, said that the Gauhati High Court order, he was quite surprised, he claims, by the order, and he's, of course, going to move the High Court as well. But do you also feel he crossed the line in this particular instance?
Actually, I have not heard most of the interventions, but let me put the things in perspective.
Okay.
Okay? The thing is that the Constitution does empower the governor to summon and prorogue the House. But he has to act, as has been said, on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. But number one point is, again, that even though the governor can fix the date of the summoning of the Legislative Assembly, ultimately the summons are issued with the approval of the Speaker.
Okay.
And not just on the basis of the governor's order. So the secretariat, the legislative secretariat, it submits the papers to the speaker and takes his approval, and then only issues the summons. Number two, of course, the governor has been given some discretionary powers, but they relate to largely grant of pardon and reserving certain legislations for the consideration of the president. But there is no express or otherwise provision for the governor to exercise his discretionary powers in this matter. But there are two issues I would like to raise. One is that perhaps, arguing from the governor's side, he probably thought is the same issue with the justice mentioned, that lot of horse trading can go on. And now with the High Court giving a longer rope, then there is more scope for the horse trading to be there. As a matter of fact, if the least the High Court could have done is to fix a date of hearing just before the date of the summoning of the state legislature as decided by the speaker. Number one. Number two, the first item on the agenda could be, if governor wants to exercise his power, for him to say that please prove your strength, please prove your majority in the House, rather than saying that the first item would be the consideration of the impeachment motion or removal of the speaker.
That's right. I think that is what Satya Prakash. That is one of the issues which the Congress too is even more livid about. You know, there is a certain procedure in which the government a governor can function or does things in this manner, but that wasn't followed. We'll come back to that in a bit, but I believe we do have on the phone line now Mr. Tamiyo Taga, who's the BJP MLA, also leader of opposition in the assembly. Mr. Taga, what is going to be your plan of action now, even though the Congress is still calling your act a murder of democracy? Governor, of course, now saying that he is going to move the High Court. What's your plan of action? Mr. Taga, can you hear me? There seems to be a problem with the network here as well. We're, of course, trying to get to that phone line in Itanagar as well. But Satya Prakash, if I would come to you, proving majority in the House, that is something that we see, you know, in other states as well. We have seen that's how the governor goes ahead as far as, you know, if the opposition comes, says they do have the numbers, that's the way to go, which didn't happen in this particular situation. And that is, of course, what has made the opposition, at least in Delhi, the Congress, livid about it.
There are two issues. One, the chief minister doesn't have majority. Second, the rebel group of the Congress and the BJP and a couple of independents taken together, they are of the view that a speaker must go.
Yes.
So there is an impeachment motion against him. The real issue is how can the governor resolve these two issues?
Yes.
Should he go for the trial of strength first or the impeachment motion first? That I leave it to the governor. But there are certain grey areas. One, Justice Jaspal Singh said, how can the governor dictate terms to the speaker? Governor is part of the legislature. Even in parliament, parliament is not just Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, President, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. In the states also, where there are bicameral houses, the governor, upper house and lower house, all three, they form the legislature. Okay. So he is part of the legislature. So, and that is why this role has been assigned to them. Okay. To him.
We'll just come back. We'll just come back. I believe we have Mr. Taga on the phone line from Itanagar. Mr. Taga, can you hear me? Mr. Tamiyo Taga, can you hear me? All right, we still can't get through that phone line with him, but continue. You will, of course,
the
talk
second is the discretionary powers of the governor. There are certain grey areas where the constitution is not clear about that, and how should the governor function? If the governor has the force and the sagacity and the experience, administrative or otherwise, the political experience, he is in a position to deal with the situation in a very calm and very dignified manner.
Yes.
But here is a situation where each party is acting in his or her own manner.
Yeah.
Even the speaker, he sealed the entire building, and that is why ordered that this should be sealed, this cannot be open, and that's why this is a very strange situation where legislature party meeting is taking outside assembly in a hotel or some community hall. Right. And then their entire proceedings is being carried. Such a situation, that's a very hilarious kind of situation.
Absolutely.
Because in many
accusations took place in a dance bar, so that's taking it to another level altogether.
The trial of strength has to take place on the floor of the House. So it's a kind of hilarious situation. But there are certain grey areas about which Parliament should think, and there should be some constitutional amendment, because this is happening every now and then in one state or the other, that the governor's role is coming under scrutiny. Governor has acted on the instructions of the central government or ruling party at the center. Some kind of some provisions should be clarified how he or how the governor can act in a situation where the speaker's position has been challenged, impeachment motion is there, or where the government of the day appears to have lost the majority, then how does the governor go about it to conduct the business? In such a situation, can he still be expected to go on to work or act on the aid and advice of the government, which he thinks has lost the majority of the House?
If I could take that to General Seth, in fact, General Seth, the role of the governor increasingly being questioned, getting more and more political by the day. How much of a pressure, especially in this case, it's being alleged, a lot of pressure from the center. How much of a pressure does a governor has to face as far as that's concerned in a situation like this? How tough is the situation for him?
Let me make one thing very clear. very often it is said that the center exerts the pressure on the governors. I, in 8 years, never felt the pressure from the center ever, whatever be the situation. Now, as long as the governor goes by the rule book, what was being said by the last speaker, that every situation has to be clarified, it's not possible. Every day there is a new situation. You can't cater for it. We have had enough debates in the President's conference that we should lay down how much time should be there to summon the assembly, to prove majority, etc., etc. Every time the governor has to apply his mind, as long as he takes an independent decision and does not get vitiated by what people want him to do or what public perception is, I see no difficulty in the governor's role. That role is beyond question, very well defined in our constitution, if he follows the constitution. The trouble is sometimes we get swayed and then just little bit moving left and right of the constitution poses such problems as we are witnessing in Arunachal Pradesh today.
All right, perhaps that is why the governor, Rajkhowa there, expressed surprise at the High Court order, staying all those proceedings. Mr. Agnihotri, if I could come to you, I'll, bring up that question again that I started with here with Justice Singh here. What happens now? What's the road ahead for the State Assembly at this point?
Well, as has already been said, we have to wait for the decision of the court. The matter, as they say, is sub judice. So we have to wait, and if there is the court is going to be moved by the governor, then whatever on that, application the court decides. So the matter is squarely before the court. So there is nothing else to be done except to wait for the court to give a decision.
All right. Meanwhile, of course, politics will continue. We'll have to see, of course, eventually does the Congress be able to gather its people back?
There cannot be a judicial solution to this kind of problem. It has to be a political solution.
Absolutely, which is why, we'll have to see if the CM is able to get those numbers at least till the time, the next session, the actual session does begin. What does the BJP do in the meantime? That's something we'll be keeping a track out on. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here on the big picture on this story. Something we won't see the end of, at least as far as this particular case is concerned, at least in Parliament, because both the houses, remember, have been seeing a lot of ruckus, especially on this particular issue. That's it on the big picture. We'll be joining you again on Monday with another topic. Do join us then. That's for the moment.